So hey, you know those particular shooter franchises that had interesting development stories? And I'm talking the all-time classics here. Quake, Halo, No One Lives Forever? Well, we're gonna be talking about one of those today. So, wait, what? We don't have that script finished? Ah. Okay, well let's just talk about Postal instead.
Gee, I hope nobody is taping this.
Postal started as a 1997 isometric shooter released exclusively on the PC because of course it did. It was violent, edgy, over the top, and 90s as all hell. It was developed by Tucson, Arizona's Running with Scissors and published by Ripcord Games. Ripcord Games. There's no way a company like that is still in business, and yeah, no they're not. Then in 2003, it was followed up by Postal 2, which ran on the glorious Unreal 2 engine, and also happened to become a first-person shooter in the process, as was the style at the time. Now, since Ripcord closed, Postal 2 obviously needed a new publisher, so those duties passed on to Whiptail Interactive, who were responsible for such high-class entertainment as Blade and Sword, Gangland, and of course, Psychotoxic. Postal 2 was a bit more of a light-hearted game, but was still just as violent, depraved, and relished in its, sense of humor. It also presented the player a lot of choices in the gross things that they could do, as it featured an open-world mission design that was pretty unique for an FPS in 2003. While it was Whiptail Interactive's fastest-selling title, which wasn't really saying much, it wasn't long before they also exited the game publishing business. Sometime in the mid-2000s, maybe around here, they decided to transition to video poker services, which is extremely appropriately on brand. Now, while Postal 2 managed to squeak out some financial success and was a big hit with fans, it wasn't without its share of controversy.
You gotta be fucking kidding.
Which is usually the goal of Running with Scissors anyway. It was banned in New Zealand and Germany and was denied classification in Australia, greatly limiting its exposure. Sweden even got a 2-for-1 special. It was not only banned, but its distributor in Sweden was taken to court by the Attorney General. Hey, how about that? So obviously those crazy Arizonians needed to seek out a third publisher if they wanted to make another sequel, especially since Whiptail kinda screwed them over and ghosted right after the first print was sent to stores. The ocean-deep lore and complex character arcs of Postal needed to continue.
Don't crowd, there's plenty for everyone.
And to do so, Running with Scissors would wind up on the frigid doorstep of Mother Russia. It's here where I think I'll turn over to a bit of an expert, someone that has plunged the shitty depths of the franchise all the way down to its very core. He's the Sultan of Sewers, the Warlord of Wang, and the Pope of Postal, Civvy11!
Okay, I've had it up to here with this shit. I don't know who you are, McFuckleface, or where the hell you came from, but Gordon Ramsay is my intellectual property. I give John Carmack obscure, sometimes terrifying monikers, and I'm the de facto biggest channel in the world that covers Postal games. That's my sacred cow, and I'll be damned if I share a piece of that sweet meat. Postal 3 sucks, get over it, and you still haven't paid me.
Thanks, Civvy! Anyway, enter Akela, sometimes referred to as the Russian equivalent of Electronic Arts. That just picture that for a moment. Close your eyes and yeah, they were made up of 5 different in-house development teams, which will be important later, a publishing arm, as well as a localization department, and at the very bottom was the QA team. It was then 2006 where Postal 3 was formally announced, and was very different to the product that most postmen are familiar with today. Running on Valve's Source engine, it featured vastly different graphics, weapons, features, and all the crude humor fans had come to expect, all scheduled to release sometime in 2008. Not only was it going to grace its old piss-stained stomping grounds on the PC, Akela had big plans for the franchise in general, with PS3 and 360 versions also in the cards.
If you say so.
Running with Scissors would be handling the design and the writing, with Akela taking the reins of the programming and modeling. Now, why did this marvelous team-up happen in the first place? Well, Akela had done a great job publishing prior games in the series throughout Russia up to that point, and even developed the well-received P2 add-on Corkscrew Rules. They had a lot of resources available at their beck and call, so it seemed like a mutually beneficial deal, and development was reportedly going smoothly until it wasn't.
I don't feel so good.
Something happened that no one could have predicted, something that kinda sorta managed to destroy the whole thing.
Here's where I stopped checking it last time, September
2008.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Smithers, why didn't you tell me about this market crash?
Yes, the 2008 financial crisis, which hit Russia just as hard as it hit any other nation. Akela were then forced into a series of layoffs to make ends meet. These developers, all working at Trashmaster Studios, what is with all these names? Were separated into 5 core teams, as stated earlier. The first to be cut was the A team, the ones who had been working on Postal 3 from the start and had provided all the promising builds up to that point. Why would you start the cuts with your A team?
I feel like shit.
I guess they were making the most rubles, but we really can't be sure. This of course would result in Postal 3 getting its first delay, as the B team was less experienced and smaller overall, and there wasn't really much that anyone could do about that. The original intent was for the game to continue the open world mission structure established by Postal II, but with a less experienced team at the helm, they couldn't really get the source engine to support a streaming design natively, and thus that entire aspect needed to be cut, instead opting for a more linear level-based affair. The B team struggled until 2009, where development just kinda stopped for a few months, or like almost a year, and then the B team was just fired. This was due to the fact that Akela was continually bleeding money, or some other type of bodily fluid, the longer the game wasn't releasing.
All out of cash.
Seeing the disaster unfolding in front of their eyes, RWS begged Akela to stop beating the dead horse and to simply mercy cancel it. Akela, however, due to all the bleeding, had sunk way too much money into it by this point to not attempt to recoup their investment. Thus, the C team was put on the case, but unfortunately, they weren't on it long because A, they were fired, B, they were fired, or C, they were fired.
I didn't expect that.
Thus, it was up to the lowly D team. How discouraging is it to be called the D team at your own company, to try and polish the game as best they could, which would turn out to be not a lot at all. The PS3 and 360 versions were long since cancelled.
I knew it.
But Akela were now desperate to squirt out some type of product to save the company due to a bunch of messed up shit. Said shit was that several lawsuits were being lobbied against Akela, totaling 200 million rubles, or 6 million US. Thus, they really needed Postal 3 to make fast money now, if they were to survive all the legal salvos that were being hurled at them.
Need cash now.
Give me some money.
The D team were furiously lining up patches to smooth out the experience because there was an outside chance some players might find it to be a tad buggy. Of course, because this is what happened, none of these patches actually were released. Akela fired the D team before they were done, and apparently they were never even paid. Das Vidanya? The game released for the PC in early November of 2011 in Russia, and only saw a worldwide release on December 21st everywhere else, and fans were understandably upset with the end product, which tends to happen when you can't even get it to boot.
How convenient.
For their part, Running with Scissors tried their best to calm the tumult, promising that the game, come hell or high water, would eventually be fixed. That is, of course, if Akela was willing to play ball, which they weren't. Negotiations to release the source code fell apart, with the Russian EA being so incredibly EA about it, as they flatly refused.
EA Games.
Challenge everything. This, as you'd expect, drove a wedge between both companies, causing Running with Scissors to simply disavow the entire game, taking it down from their own website. Also, and this might be shocking, but the press didn't much care for it either. Now, let's be honest with ourselves, even if the Postal 3 plane didn't crash land with a sloshy fecal-powered explosion and everything went really smoothly with its development, it was never going to be a Game of the Year contender. That being said, it would have at least been reviewed far more positively, because this staggeringly low 24 Metacritic average makes it the worst game we've ever covered here at What Happened. But wait, no, sorry, Drake's got you beat by 2 whole points. Congratulations. No, wait, oh, it's actually Ride to Hell. God damn, you fucking legend. Anyway, it's pretty clear that Running with Scissors was as disappointed with the third Postal game as any hardcore fan was, as this text now welcomes you on the official page for the game. Postal 3 is a third-person shooter in which you... Alright, I'm going to level with you. Don't buy Postal 3. Seriously, you'd regret it. Hell, you'd regret playing it for free. It's a borderline broken, boring, frustrating, unfinished mess, and there was nothing we could do to stop it. You're a responsible adult, we hope, so I'm sure you're capable of making your own purchasing decisions. I just want you to consider all of the above before you make the leap of regret into paying real, hard-earned money for this title. We don't own the game, we can't support it, and we don't get anything from its sale, so if you decide to risk the purchase, you're on your own. In an effort to try and salvage something from all this, Running with Scissors actually went back and updated Postal 2 with an expansion called Paradise Lost, whose main purpose was to sandbag the entirety of Postal 3, chalking it up as some coma-induced fever dream, officially making it non-official. The expansion could also be seen as an apology, a small thank you to those who stuck it out through the rough years of 2011 to 2015. This went a long way to contributing to the healing process, as Paradise Lost was warmly received from fans of the series. Rough times were still in store for Akella though, who, due to the obvious commercial failure of Postal 3, were pushed to the very edge of bankruptcy, but narrowly avoided it by selling its unsold stock of games as bank collateral, if you can believe it. While still technically existing, the best type of existing, they have ceased all operations that involve publishing or developing video games, and I think that's for the best. Now, in the subsequent years, the official source code for the game still hasn't been released to the public, with only the SDK or software development kit having leaked. That is, however, not enough for the game to truly be fixed. Running with Scissors did reveal that they may have gotten their hands on the source code, but it's all written in Russian, which would make it nigh impossible for most fans to finagle it into something playable. Mike J, the chief bidet officer at Running with Scissors, has advised any fans that are still holding on to Postal 3 to simply let it go, which is pretty good advice, I'd say. Stop clinging to the past and maybe embrace the future instead.
I feel better already.
I think the story can best be summed up by CEO Vince Desi. Some deals work, some don't. P3 failed for many reasons. Worst of all, we lost control of the project, and that was the beginning of the shitfest. Historically, we had a great relationship with Akella, our Russian publisher, and for the record, the folks there were good people, and I consider them my friends regardless of the fiasco. Again, it is testimony to Postal fans around the world who have shown their loyal support beyond all odds and hurdles that allows us to keep on going. And keep going they did. Postal 4 No Regrets is currently on Steam Early Access in its janky alpha state, and getting progressively less janky with every new update. And while it still needs a few more QA passes and obviously more content, I myself had a good time with it when I played it a few months back. Also, you can't go wrong with John motherfucking St. John as the new voice of the Postal dude.
Figures.
So, in one of those rare cases that I'm always happy to cover, the franchise in question is still going strong. People still have jobs, well, I mean not Akella, but, and while the Postal series is certainly not everyone's cup of tea, it's still admirable that such a grassroots studio with a never say die attitude, despite all the odds, never died.
I can relate, bro.
If you know of any other games, movies, or consoles that deserve their time to sweat it out underneath the hot lights of the What Happened stage, post them up in the comments below or drive your Segway over to the Flophouse VIP Patreon to nominate the subject for a future episode. See you next time, and thanks for watching.
Have a nice day.